Yay, we can hear. Okay, so let's get Chris on the show. Accept. Why does it say he's unable to join?
Hooray! Brother, how's it
Oh,
going, Grant?
finally. How many times do I have to click the same button, Chris, before it works?
Sometimes you just go, 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 go. I
Yeah,
have, I have a YouTube link issue with that sometimes I literally have to click it like 80 times before it will work. It's
yeah.
crazy.
I think I had to resort to the Homer Simpson just bash, back thing. Like,
I think that's the most effective way to fix anything, basically. Like either you blow on it, you lick it, or you hit it. Like that's those are the main ways to fix stuff.
all right. Well, I miss you, brother. It's really cool to have you on the line.
You
And
too, man.
we're going to
You
talk
too.
about
Been
some
too long.
cool stuff today. Yeah, it's been too long. I've known you for a very long time.
Yeah.
I mean, both been running events and writing books and doing all kinds of things for a long time. The Woodstock Fruit
Yeah.
Festival back in 2011.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah. Absolutely.
special
Yeah, and we
times.
probably saw each other before then on some forums, I'm sure, with the Food and Sport Forum
Absolutely.
and other stuff like that. So,
I remember your baby face making all those videos back in the early days. Yeah, it was
hey man, I still
super
got a
cool.
baby face, don't I?
Always, Chris, always, Chris. You got a baby butt probably too, but I don't want to look
Oh,
at
it's
that.
soft. Man, yeah, no one's gonna see it here. Not today.
You got a fruity butt.
It's a pretty fruity butt. Although I don't have any fruit tattoos on my butt, but maybe I should get some fruit tattoos on my butt. I got a fruity finger, and I now have fruity armpits. Have you seen my armpit tattoos?
Really? Are you
Yeah.
kidding? Oh my God,
No,
you did
no.
your armpits.
What would you guess for fruity armpit tattoos?
Oh, date pit. Pit. You
No,
got a pit. No, that's a good
no.
guess though, right? Not bad.
I got durian,
Oh,
and then
spiky.
and then I got noni, the two stinkiest fruits around for my
Oh, that's
armpits.
awesome. Oh, that's brilliant, Chris. I love it. I love it. That's really cool. The thorns
It's
don't
pretty cool.
irritate when you close your. No.
No, 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 and you can't really see my fine, clear hairs anyway, so it almost looks like I shave, even though I don't shave. And yeah, besides before anyone jumps on me, I didn't do those for health. I did them just because I wanted to do them. They weren't
Okay, so
vitamin mineral tattoos. Like I was hoping for vitamin mineral tattoos that have a slow release of B12 over the next 12 years through my tattoos, but those aren't invented yet.
are you going to start like an army of people? Like, should I get it as well? The same tattoos?
Yeah, if you want to, I'm not opposed to it, but I'm not trying to start an army. I'm not trying to start a cult over here or anything
You know,
like that.
like copywriting,
No, no, no.
public
I have
domain.
actually I've had a few people say they wanted to tattoo my banana logo on themselves, and I was like, if you want to, go ahead, absolutely. But I haven't seen any actually inked yet. So,
Wow.
but me and Ashley both have
I've
these.
seen them both. I remember.
Yeah,
I remember when you got them. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. You got some very interesting tattoos, Chris. You'll always have that. Yeah, that one down there.
What a fun start! Welcome everyone.
Yeah, welcome. So, yeah, like Chris has been around for a long time. What I really admire about Chris, apart from being around for a long time, being super consistent, making tons of videos, tons of content, and having the initiative to make a program like this Ultimate Raw Vegan Bundle, which, everyone knows they can check our bios for the links and sign up for the most epic, epic bundle of books ever.
Yeah, with your new one in there that I know you put a lot of love and time
Uh,
into, which is amazing as
I
well.
had to have spent 1,000 hours on that. Like,
Yeah,
it's a lot. Yeah, it was a lot. But
good to pour that wisdom and experience into something that others can really just pick up and benefit
I,
from. Hey,
absolutely, and it's a foundation because it's setting the stage for the next book, which is the food combining side of things, and it's presented in a different way to what anyone else has ever presented with food combining before. So it's I came up with something that I feel is a bit more like aligned with what we do in practice,
hmm
which it's not that it doesn't align with everything else, but it's simpler and easier and straight to the point, and it's
Mm.
just based on a fruit-based raw vegan approach as opposed to
I
like
love
trying to
it.
like look into everything.
Does like an arm come out of the book and punch you in the face if you don't food combine properly? Like smack.
It's actually a slap, but yeah, a punch might have been fun. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe the next
Slaps are a
edition,
little more kind. They're a little more kind.
like just a little like fairy tap.
Go.
Not really a slap.
Good. Yes, it's not a
Yeah,
backhand. It's a just a tap.
we're into compassion.
Hey.
It's
Yeah.
compassionate lifestyle, Chris.
Compassionate slap. This is a dangerous road we walk down when we're talking about
I
compassionate
know.
slaps, my friend. I don't know.
So as everyone can see, Chris and I can, well, let's just say shit talk for a long time, and let's not do that because people are here to learn
Okay.
stuff and listen to cool
Yeah.
things. And so let's get on track. So today's topic is the biggest raw myths that hold you back is the official
Yeah.
title. And Chris has a cool book in this bundle. The exact title of your book is
Raw
pretty much
truths.
well,
The
truths. That's
top
right.
10, exposing the top 10 myths sabotaging your raw journey.
Yeah, that's so we're going to get into this, and we're not just focusing on one myth. We're just kind of going a bit general, and we're going to talk about whatever we where it flows. And
Yeah.
hey, running frugivore, welcome, welcome, welcome. So
And if anyone has questions too, if they think of a myth that they haven't, they wonder things about, we can wrap on those as well because I think we have between us over 40 plus years of myth busting kind of insights, I think.
absolutely. And wow, is that Felipe, my dance teacher, Felipe Baila? Wow, that's
I'm not sure.
awesome.
I
He's
can't see
super.
all the comments.
He's so he's such an epic dancer. Oh my God, he's so. I Amara and I saw him do a dance recently that's just epic. He's got his own dance studio now. We're so happy for him. So welcome, Felipe.
Cool.
Thanks for joining. Yeah. So did you have a pet myth that you wanted to get into first? Something juicy, Chris, today?
Well, I'd like to talk about the myth of food combining and why you should never food combine. No, I'm just
Yeah, and don't read Grant Campbell's upcoming book that hasn't been released yet.
I'm totally just joking, of course. I'm a food combining enthusiast as well.
Yeah.
Um,
But there are myths. There are myths within food combining, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I don't know if we want to go into that and, seeing that your book is coming out next, but there are a lot of big ones that I put into the book for sure. There are some that I could have, but I really wanted to keep it to 10 like really strong myths that I see for a long time being, echoed around the raw food movement, like ranging from the big mucoid plaque myth, which of course I exposed in a video recently, to supplements, just labeling them completely bad every single case, like you never should. Protein, a classic one. Uh, Enzymes, a big one, people saying like the reason you eat raw food is enzymes,
Right. No.
Um,
Sorry.
there's a whole bunch more, hybrid fruits, seedless fruits, fruitarian
Hmm.
myth, fat myth, cooked food myth, all of those are fun topics we could go into. And
Yeah.
um,
And needing to eat, protein and iron and all these things to be strong, and animal foods to be strong, and
yeah,
um,
absolutely.
needing fat, like certain, certain amounts of fat to be healthy, and
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
and
yeah. There's
even
a lot of.
people
Go ahead.
even saying that the cooked food is healthy, like that
Yeah,
it's or that red wine is healthy, and there's so
yeah,
many kind of just
yeah,
based on misinterpreted science,
yeah,
good science
yeah.
that's misrepresented by people trying to tell a different kind of story with it, their own agenda.
Exactly. Yeah. When there's agenda, when there's biases come into play, stuff like that, all of those things can come to play. And a lot of times people are well-meaning, but they may just be parroting poor information that was out there in the past, or that really just makes them feel comfortable about what they do,
Mm,
And something that I really like to present in this book too is that many things that we like to put in boxes and make black and white aren't really that way. There's generally some gray there, and it depends upon people's views, their goals, a whole host of things, But I try to stay away from completely black and white statements unless we're really talking about like cyanide. Well, yeah, like sorry, like there is it's kind of hard to have gray area on the application of cyanide in your diet, you know,
Well, yeah,
but
atomic bombs.
exactly, yeah. I mean, they're super useful for redirecting asteroids, though, you know.
That's
So even them, they may not be black and white, right? It
true.
just
That's
depends
true.
the context. Context means everything. Context is king.
Touche, Chris. Yeah,
Yep.
running frugivore said adding nuts and seeds to your smoothies that you need to do that. You know, like it just makes
Yeah,
bad food. So that's generally not a great idea.
yeah,
But it certainly can feel more satisfying at first.
yeah.
But
And
long-term
there's going to
strategy.
be a difference between, say, a teaspoon of a seed as opposed to like having handfuls in there, you know.
Hmm.
But I totally agree.
Yeah,
You know, there's
absolutely. Yeah, a tiny amount. It's not really gonna
and and even
destroy.
as you said, I apologize, but it, the need to, it's like there definitely is no need to. You could have those seeds at a different meal later in the day in a way that digests better. Like you don't have to put them in your smoothie,
Yeah.
but usually it comes from a place of wanting to feel fuller off less volume because people are afraid to eat enough volume to be really satiated.
Hmm. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of fears behind these myths. Absolutely, fears of
Yeah.
fears of not meeting your nutritional needs, because of fears of not being accepted by other people, fears of being judged, fears of being different, fears of not fitting in, fears of missing out on something, fears of not getting all these treats and special things that everyone else is getting,
Hmm.
fear of missing out on like a sense of entitlement. You know, if other people are getting things for free and you're like don't really want it, then you're not getting the free thing, so therefore you're missing out. There's all kinds of things
Hmm.
behind where some of these myths come
Yeah.
and yeah,
And I mean, some of them may,
running
sorry.
through also said, sorry, running through also said, gotta have that resveratrol. But yeah, you go on, Chris.
That's a good one. Yeah, and you said the myth of balanced meals, like yeah, you need a protein food and a fat food and a like at every single meal. And
Yeah,
you know,
protein, complete proteins, right?
yeah,
Every,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. No, it's prevalent out there. And I mean, in some cases it's perpetuated because of sales. You know, that's one thing. Like it's or also some myths are perpetuated in an extreme black and white way because they get more attention. You know, we live in a land of social media, and you know, if you say certain things that just blow people's minds and make them go, "Oh my gosh, really?" Then you know, you pull more people into their little circle. You know, and um, you know, perhaps people do that without thinking of it, but when you understand that what is being promoted isn't accurate, then it can really, you know, paint a different picture of it.
Indeed. So let's get down to something a little bit meaty.
Yeah.
What myth has held you back the most, Chris, on your journey before you had all these,
Um,
you know?
Yeah, you know, I think maybe I would have to say the supplement myth. You know, because I came from a very strict hygienic background, and I still have that as a very firm base, right? But in some circles within hygiene, it's really presented as if supplementing is bad, like you're less than if you supplement, or at least that's what I took away. Some of the early hygienist writings, in my mind, are actually very violently written. Basically, like I remember one, I believe it's Shelton, who says like the intelligent man will do this, and it's like, oh, so if you don't do that, you're an idiot. Like to me, that's violent language and it's not very attractive language, but there's lots of gems within there, right? So being slightly discerning, I think, is valuable. But I came from that kind of perspective and had pride that if I didn't supplement, I was like elevated. I was a better raw foodist. I was doing it properly. And if I needed to supplement, then I was bad and I wasn't doing it properly. So I wanted to avoid that at all costs. And it wasn't something that like hugely occupied my thoughts, and I wasn't like scared about it or worried. But after you know, 6 years of being a raw foodist, I got my blood work done, and I was a little low in B12, you know. And then at year 8, I got another one. Year 9, 10, like I had about 4 or 5 different blood tests between year 6 and 10, and my B12 values went down, 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 down to the point where they were clinically very deficient, and I was actually getting symptoms, like I was symptomatic from it. And I decided to start supplementing. And um, I just think that that kind of a what I call a myth that like supplementing is bad and is never necessary can really damage people. And you know, over the years, I've met a lot of long-term raw foodists, some as long as me, some up to 40 years, you know, who came from a similar background, but they went even longer than me without supplementing, and now they have permanent nerve damage, or they have like, like they have shakes, or they have less coordination, or they've noticed a little bit of mental acuity kind of drawn down, and some of those things don't reverse, right? So
Can be.
that was one that did hit me. I luckily didn't get in trouble from it. And I don't think it's a black and white scenario either. I know some people that don't supplement and seemingly are all good, but I think it's something to definitely be aware of and to not just like, again, make it like you're failing if you do it, or have any kind of semblance of like you don't need to think about it at all, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm kind of hearing from between the lines is what I agree with, that strictness in and of itself
Mm,
isn't necessarily good or bad. It's like being strict for the right reasons can be really super helpful. And
yeah,
like I don't eat cooked food, right? Like I have no desire
yeah,
to eat cooked food, and it's not strictness. But you
no,
could say it's strict because I don't have exceptions, right? So it's
yeah,
strict in that sense. But I'm not applying it like I have to do this because otherwise I'm going to be a bad person and people are going to
yes,
judge me and I'll lose my raw Aussie athlete status and I'll be whatever it is, you know. And so I think that I think it's really hard. Like when like people start the lifestyle, they don't have all the knowledge, you know, and so they don't know where their protein comes from. And when people worry and ask all these questions, they don't have the answers, and it's that's challenging, right?
hugely.
And then and so they often make, maybe fall off the wagon or make compromises based on pressures. Um, but then people like get really passionate and write books, and when they're quite new to it still, maybe don't have enough experience to really do that too much. But they're really super passionate, and it's beautiful to see that energy. But then they get kind of disillusioned when something's not going right,
Hmm.
and so that, and then but they built their reputation and their whole like business. Maybe they make their money that way, and it's all hinged on continuing that rigid belief or whatever. And so lots of things can kind of ebb and flow and change. And I really just think like life is about making intelligent decisions, being
Mm,
willing to flow with what the right thing is in any moment,
mm.
and take a dose of humility and just kind of keep moving forward that way. But obviously being educated is super important, and that's where the ultimate raw
Huge.
vegan bundle comes in. Um,
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And, I think it's such a different quality. Like, we could look at a lot of these myths really, and even reasons why people have challenges and cravings in the raw food lifestyle. And there's a huge qualitative difference between doing something based on fears and doing something because it resonates, it feels good, and it's genuinely what you want to do. It's not running away from what you shouldn't do, but it's doing things because that's what makes you feel great and feels
mm,
amazing and actually gets you where you're going, and that's where I see people run into a lot of issues when, yeah, they're doing things based on fear and concern. And there is sadly a lot of fear porn out there in the movement too, like promoting things from a place of fear, like this is going to happen if you don't do that, or, you need to do this, otherwise you'll never experience health. And it's like, oh my God, like I must do that then, and it's like, whenever I see that kind of fear porn, I like to kind of slow down a little bit, look at it, and see if there's actually good standing behind it. Like what are the motivations of promoting this, and is it actually accurate? Not only from experience, but from the science. And just like you said, I mean, having kind of a more grounded approach and living and learning from your experience, while at the same time, soaking in the experience of others who have walked this path and who have consulted others. We're both so blessed to have the ear and friendship of Dr. Doug Graham, who has done this for 40 plus years and consulted thousands, tens of thousands of people, and being able to sit down with him and talk to him about some of these myths over the years, and get his insight and what he's seen people do, and it's invaluable to have that extra insight from not just our limited experience or something we read on the internet, but like firsthand experience, meeting people, traveling the world as both of us have done, and talking to people who've done that for twice as long as us.
yeah, I do think we have been very blessed with all of that, and like as you were describing, I think the way I've heard Doug say it is it's much easier to run towards something you love than away from something you loved, right? Because
Yeah.
you're running from something, there's all that keeps trying to pull you back into that old life. But if you're running towards something you love, like adding fruits and vegetables into your life, adding exercise, adding extra sleep, adding things that make you feel better, that make you feel good about yourself,
Yeah.
focus on that. And the other things will just naturally slip away without taking up all your thought processes.
Yeah.
We well, I wanted to say hey to Mikkel and Michael. Maybe Mads is around too.
Oh,
Just hang
sick.
out a
Are
lot
they
with those guys.
here?
They're
I
here,
haven't.
yeah.
Wow,
Well,
sick. I
Michael,
haven't seen them for a long time.
yeah,
So awesome.
they're really, really awesome to see you guys. Vegan Pizza Writer says, "Hi, legends." I think they must be talking to you, Chris.
Yeah,
What
right.
What do you guys think about table sugar on fruits during Writer style? Grant Kenyon's use it. Do you
Yeah.
use it on races or at all? No, I never ever put table sugar. I don't use sugar, oil, salt. I don't use any. I do use herbs and some spices and like some herb mixes and things like that. But
Mm.
yeah, I'm pretty straight up. I never, ever, ever, ever use refined sugar for anything. The closest I would have to that would be drinking cane juice on occasion, which I don't
Yeah.
have regularly either. Um, but in races, the best races I've ever done, I ate watermelon and mangoes were just juicy fruits. They were the best results I ever got. When I run ultras through the middle of nowhere and I have to carry everything for the whole race for 100 Ks or something through mountains, and there's not
Mm.
really any support apart from picking up water along the way, then I have to look at carrying dates and hopefully like rehydrating those along the way in a bottle. And so I just carry the dates with the pits already out and then throw them in throw them in, like some into a bottle, fill it with water, run for 30 or 40 minutes until it's all shaken up and juicy, and then I drink it. And then and so I'm just running with the weight of the dates, but not the weight of all the juicy food and getting the
Mm.
water along the way. And that helps. But dates never digest as well as juicy fruits. So I
Mm.
love doing track races and things when you just have, or races with a lot of aid stations where you're just picking up fresh fruit all the time. I did a 100-mile race in the US and it was just epic. They had grapes and watermelon and all kinds of things at all the aid stations. I didn't have to carry anything. Um,
Mm.
Speaking of which, are you guys attending or hosting any retreats this year? Uh,
I,
yeah, Chris, you go.
I don't know if I am or not yet. I'm still waiting for my stuff to go through here, but
Mm,
I'm hoping so. No, yeah, I can't say 100% for myself.
okay. Yeah. Um,
You have
Amar and
one
I will be
soon.
at the Dutch Fruit Festival.
Yeah.
We will be at the Vegan Wellness Retreat in the US in August, and we're running our own retreat in Thailand that starts in just 2 weeks from now. So on
Mhm.
the 18th to 31st of May, there's still
You have
two
any
places
spots open
available.
for that?
There's two places
You have any
available.
spots open?
Yeah, just
Oh,
two,
yeah,
only
yeah, yeah,
two.
yeah.
So
I'm
they're
hoping to make it to Dutch maybe, but your retreat sounds amazing. I've heard so many good things.
oh, we would love to have you here, Chris. That'd be so
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah,
One day I
waterfalls.
definitely will.
Yeah, epic waterfalls, fruit orchards, like epic durian, super fresh, super tree dropped, um, beaches, hikes, epic, just and awesome discussions, beautiful people, amazing climate, lots of cultural experiences, the world's biggest durian market, like huge markets, and just living in a fruit culture with
Mm.
like-minded people for 2 weeks is pretty beautiful.
Oh God, yeah. Having the most perfect selection of places and fruits in Thailand is like you can go to Thailand and get lost and go to the regular grocery store. You can go to like the best places that you guys have been to many times and have sourced and have perfect amongst other like-minded fruities. It's amazing. If I could, I'd like to talk about the sugar for a second though
Oh,
too,
please, please.
because yeah, The only time I really have like white sugar is when I like I put it on like a piece of glass and I go like that. That's how I take my sugar personally. But no, I'm just joking. I don't consume sugar, although I'll admit I have bought in 2 bags of coconut sugar over the years just to try it out. And I've used it in some dishes and some smoothies. But my strong preference is just using dates as a sweetener or eating enough fruit to get the calories. Strictly speaking, I mean, coconut sugar is going to be better in my mind than white sugar because there's still some minerals there, whereas the white sugar is, it's an empty calorie food. And while I'm personally not concerned about like just getting enough nutrition, like I think my diet is abundant in nutrition. So by that respect, I wouldn't be concerned if I had like a teeny bit of sugar, but I wouldn't go to my way to do it because I'd way rather get my sugar from whole foods, that have all the symphony of nutrients connected to those sugars. And you know, I do think that, freely, for example, is accurate that it is just pure fructose, but again, it's still empty calories and it's not better than getting it attached with all the minerals and vitamins and fiber and all those other things there. And to me, it kind of goes back to more of that, like we were talking about before, fantastic claims, that get more eyes, and I think that's kind of the bigger part of it. And it's also just a simple, cheap convenience if you don't get enough stuff. But again, I'd rather get my nutrients and my sugars in the same place, So I think that sugar is a little bit overly demonized when reality it's like processed foods and fats that have a much bigger negative impact on your health compared to if you put a couple tablespoons of pure sugar in a smoothie. But again, I'd much rather get my whole food sugars rather than processed food sugars, and I think it's more of just a way to get lots of eyes to you, with yeah, that's my take.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd rather eat the whole rainbow than to like munch on a black hole.
Yeah, exactly. That might suck you in though.
It's, I don't want to look too deep into that analogy. Omar is asking, Chris, what are your thoughts on herbs like parasite cleansers and so on?
I think they definitely can have their time and place, but they're often way too widely promoted for my comfort and for what I think is accurate information. Some people put out information like everyone has parasites and everyone needs my special herb cleanse to cleanse the parasites. And in a lot of cases, they're just going way overboard or they're irritating, they're an unnecessary expenditure. The way I look at it is if you genuinely do have symptoms that indicate you have parasites, well, get a stool test or get a blood test to see if you actually do. And then if you do, to find out exactly what it is so you know exactly what to do in order to get rid of it. Because some of them you can just eat some pumpkin seeds in a coconut curry with some garlic and it might come out, but other ones, even if you did a 30-day fast, it wouldn't come out. So again, I don't look at it as a black and white kind of thing. I think they can be useful, but I think they're often over promoted for monetary purposes using fear tactics, which is unsavory to me personally.
Right.
Um, yeah.
So if Amara also was kind of saying like specifically if if you've got kidneys
Oh,
that they're saying are not filtering enough, so they're not working properly, are herbs useful to get the kidneys to filter again? Can that is that a thing?
well, first off, I'd like to say I think the idea that your kidneys aren't filtering unless you see sediment in your urine is garbage, truthfully. What I've observed is if you have an adequate level of hydration, you don't really see much in your urine, if anything. And if you're slightly dehydrated, your urine's more yellow and you're going to have sediment in it. But that's not because it wasn't there in the first place. It's just, dilute when you're hydrated, or it forms crystals when you're not hydrated. And most of the people that I've seen that promote this kind of an idea, they are coming from a place where they don't recommend drinking water. They recommend only getting your hydration from fruit, which generally speaking is going to lead you to slight dehydration compared to if you're drinking water. They talk about yellower urine and, having sediment, but you can turn that on and off, and if your kidneys aren't filtering, you're dead. Like your kidneys are always filtering, so I think there's like parcels of truth in there, but it's way too black and white and is inaccurate in that form. Um, and I mean, like I said, while my background is in hygiene, I'm not like a black and white strict everything like this, but some principles, that talk about, we don't stimulate ourselves to health, like if you actually do have, kidney issues, well, personally, I'd much rather just support my kidneys by eating a simple diet and taking rest and being hydrated enough, not dehydrating yourself by not drinking water, to support your kidneys and all the different organs in your body to come back into natural homeostasis. So, again, to me, that's hopefully well-meaning misinformation, but on the other side, it could be misinformation to sell cleanse kits, that are for the absolute most part unnecessary for the largest amount of people. I wouldn't just throw it all out. I think there could be a time and place, but I think it's way too widely promoted based on misconceptions. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. There's no contraindications to healthful living. So I think the best thing to do is always to do what's best for your body, even if your
Yeah,
kidneys are struggling. You know, like obviously being on dialysis would be a good indication that your kidneys are failing.
yeah, yeah. I
So
mean,
if you're not at
I,
that point, it's not that serious.
I don't think either of us are really looking to stimulate or self-direct our body's initiative. Like I put much more faith in my body's natural tendency towards health in doing it in the way, speed, and direction that is best for it than any individual out there who says, no, you need to take this to self-direct your body to do that. Like to me, that's not really honoring the mastery of this amazing vessel we're in that is completely self-healing, self-organized, self-detoxifying. And instead it's saying, I'm smarter and this is what's wrong and I need to do that. And hey, I understand that there can still be a time and place for that. If your leg's broken and cut up, or if your like heart is stopped, well, yeah, there can be a time for that. But I think it's way too widely promoted, more with an allopathic model than really respecting the health model and the majesty of the human body.
Indeed, indeed. Um, let's hit the enzyme myth really quick. Like, just why are you saying what's the myth about enzymes?
Well, I mean, and tell me if you see a different view of it, because maybe we each have a little bit of a different view. But I've read various books, and there are various people in the movement that really promote enzymes as the key reason why we eat raw food. That the enzymes are the most important part, and that essentially we have an enzyme bank. And if we're using our enzymes, our digestive enzymes, then we will age faster. We, won't have as much metabolic processes and will slowly get diminished or deficient in our own enzymes. But that by taking in enzymes from raw living foods, we're negating the need for those enzymes, and it's helping in a whole bunch of different reactions in the body.
Okay.
Um,
So
and as I
so what are
understand,
the
go ahead.
so what are the enzymes that are in food? What are they for?
Well, there are various enzymes from amylase, protease, or there are slightly different names for them. Those are the ones we secrete in our mouth. But there actually, no, there is protease, there's bromelain, papain. So those are both protein digesting enzymes
Hmm.
in some. I mean, there are even carbohydrate digesting enzymes within foods themselves, but as I understand it, the enzymes in food are meant for the food itself. It's for the growth, it's for the ripening, and even for the breakdown of the food itself, for the controlled rotting that goes on within the food itself.
Absolutely, 100% agree. Yep. And none of them are the digestive enzymes that we produce within our body.
Yeah, yeah. So exact, and the thing is too, like even some of those enzymes, like let's say you take a banana, right? And there's carbohydrate, or sorry, there's starch digesting enzymes, carbohydrate digesting enzymes that start the breakdown so that the starches are converted into sugars, and it makes it sweeter and sweeter and sweeter, and eventually then it breaks down and becomes more vinegary and starts to rot, right? But if we eat it when it's a little less ripe, there's a little bit more of those enzymes that haven't actually activated to convert into simple sugars. And so you could say like, well, if you eat those, you get those enzymes. And the reality is the vast majority of those are broken down by stomach acid and registered inert anyway. So you could make the case that the enzymes are important because they pre-digest the food for you, but that's totally separate from what the people claiming that enzymes are the most important for, because they talk about them being important in the body, not for just the digestive process before you even put it in your body in the first place, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, Yeah, and like so we eat ripe fruit, we eat high quality fruit. We don't eat unripe, you know, food that wasn't going to develop that's out of season, or we don't like new season fruit so much because it's not as good as peak season fruit, right? So
Absolutely.
we're
And it's
eating,
usually more expensive.
and it's more expensive. Yeah. So we're eating fruit where the enzymes in the food have done their job. It's developed the fruit to the point where it's magnificent to eat it. Our body
Mm-hmm.
produces somewhere around, I don't know what, I forget exactly what the number is, but somewhere up to less than 20, but somewhere around 20 different enzymes that are for digestion, that are used in our digestive tract to break down fats, carbs, proteins, lipases, anything that ends with ASE is an enzyme, right? So there's lipase to break down fats, proteases to break down proteins or proteolytic enzymes. There's different names for the same things. And then there's amylases
Amylase.
and yeah, to break down carbs. And we have a little bit of that in our saliva.
Mm-hmm.
And there's tyalin and some other enzymes that get secreted in the small intestines and help to break down foods. But none of those come from our food. Our body
Yeah.
produces all of those digestive enzymes.
Yeah.
And so the enzymes we're eating in our food aren't adding to a pool of those enzymes. Our body makes them
No.
when we need them, you know, and that's the end of story. And our body has somewhere like 20 to 30,000 enzymes, is my understanding. Different,
Types.
I don't mean like different types of enzymes. So
Yeah.
20 to 30,000 different, like for different processes. And
Yeah. And not all food related, right? There are
and
so many different metabolic processes in the body that they're used for, not just food.
yeah, like for sending messages still through the body from the nervous system and all different things to tell the body to release like glucagon from the liver or something to all these kind of things. There's an enzyme to trigger each one of those processes because an enzyme is just a catalyst. It's
Yeah.
something that starts a process,
Yeah.
and it's the presence of that enzyme tells the body to start some process. And only like less than 1 in 1,000 enzymes in our body, types of enzymes in our body, is for digestion.
Yeah.
It's not many.
Yeah. And it's all within ourselves. And I mean, you know, I kind of sometimes look at it almost like you know, salt. Like if people use a little bit of salt, it deadens their taste buds and they find they need to use more and more and more and more and more and more, you know, to get that same kind of satisfaction. And you know, the enzymes though, it's like it doesn't work in that way. Like the point I was actually really trying to make is that you're not going to like run out of enzymes, you know, like if you run out of enzymes, you're going to be dead, you know, like because they're needed for every single thing in our body. And of course, if somebody is living a really unhealthy lifestyle, well, they can get bunged up and it can become less efficient, and you know maybe the body becomes less efficient at producing as much as we need, or you know I can't even say that with complete accuracy what exactly happens there, but it's inaccurate to say that, you know, like you need the outside enzymes in order to get the most from your food, you know? So it's just it's a misconception, you know, making enzymes the most important part of raw foods, and that's kind of the main point of the myth.
Right. Let's let's just thank you, Chris. It's great. I love everything you're saying. Um, this one, are all cooked foods acid forming, even whole food plant based?
That's a great question. I do have the cooked food myth, and you know, it ranges from a lot of different things. You know, like people will say that all cooked foods are bad, or like I remember reading Nature's First Law, which was word for word plagiarized. You know, and the end of every single chapter said, you know, cooked food is poison. Cooked food is poison. You know, and like you know, to me, that's again a little more black and white. You know, talking about dietary, I can't pronounce the word properly, leukoidosis. You know, where there's a rise in white blood cells.
Leukocytosis.
Exactly, yeah. Which, you know, has been widely perpetuated as if like, you know, every single cooked food produces that reaction in your body, which has been scientifically disproven even by the person who put out that research, you know. So, no, I wouldn't say that every single type of cooked food is toxic, nor
Well,
that it
Chris,
is
what is it?
acidic.
What is? If we just like this, the question was, are they acid forming?
Yeah.
So let's first try to like explain what does it mean for something to be acid forming? What do you
Yeah,
think
that's
for
a
that?
good part. So, I mean, the ash result of a food is when they burn the food and you get the resulting mineral base in the food itself. And if a food is predominantly acid based, so we're talking amino acids, we're talking essential fatty acids, then the acid base is then it's going to be determined as acid if there isn't enough alkaline minerals along with that to buffer out that acid. So, if we're talking about something like steamed broccoli, well, I mean, one, wet heat, so steaming, boiling, it doesn't produce any toxins, but it does diminish certain vitamins, some certain heat sensitive vitamins, right? So you're going to get less out of it in terms of those heat sensitive vitamins, but it's not creating any acid waste or toxicity. And those foods in itself, they're naturally alkaline forming foods because the alkaline ash from the alkaline minerals in the food way outbalances the amount of amino acid or resultant in essential fatty acids. So yeah, so that would be inaccurate to say that all cooked food is acid forming. Steamed or boiled vegetables, especially green leafy vegetables and, broccolis and stuff like that are naturally really high in alkaline minerals would still be alkaline forming. And in my personal opinion, would be a healthier addition than, say, eating lots of high fat raw gourmet, with like oils and salts and, lots of nuts and seeds and stuff like that. And that's kind of one of the main points amongst a lot more. Each myth is like 6 pages of well-researched literature. But that's one of the points that I really make in that chapter.
Yeah, I would agree. Cooking food doesn't really make it more. It doesn't change the minerals.
No.
Cooking doesn't destroy iron. Cooking doesn't destroy copper. Cooking doesn't destroy sulfur. Cooking doesn't destroy iodine. Like the acid form, the acidic, because minerals have a positive or a negative charge, and so the acidic ones would be like iodine, sulfur, and things. Some other. There's a short list, and then the rest are alkaline. And cooking foods doesn't change that. Cooking foods, what does cooking do? It damages, it creates carcinogens, and it damages, caramelizes the sugars and makes them kind of more carcinogenic. It's like on a scale. And proteins get denatured, so you can't break them down with enzymes, and you have fats that become rancid, and so you can't use them to build other structures. And so that's the kind of the problem with cooked food. It's not that they're acid forming. Yeah. So
especially when it's with high heat and dry heat, right? Because then the temperatures get so high that there are more of those sides created,
yeah,
more,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
so
Water helps for sure.
yeah.
Um,
And it's kind of funny too. I just want to say, like, I'm not trying to make the case that you should eat cooked foods or that, water and steamed foods are healthier than raw foods by any stretch, But I am trying to make the case that the black and white view that all cooked food is toxic, and if you eat steamed broccoli, you're going to form mucoid plaque and you're going to die. It's like, that's taking things way too far. And, like a big part of what I really want to do is present information that is not only accurate, but paints a better picture of us. Because I want to see raw food as taken in a positive light within the medical community and within the larger world. And if we're just touting out these myths that are based on flawed information and half truths, well, we're not taken seriously, and they'll just throw our stuff out. But if you have a bit more of a rational approach that considers the great information that we know from hygiene and from other things, but also places it in new world foundation and understandings, and is able to not just, dismiss one or the other, but to really like go into each of them. I think that's just valuable for the whole movement and for us moving forward. So that's really what I try and showcase in this book
yeah,
to the best of my ability.
my heart is totally on the same page, Chris. My book is also like the same. Like this. I don't know if you've seen how many references and things are in my book, but it's not nothing.
Yeah.
And we've both seen so many books in the history of this movement where people just wrote stuff off the cuff as though it's fact, and they're just kind of winging it. It's based on their personal beliefs and things like that. And and that's a valid story to tell, but it's not something to share as facts. And I love that you're putting these efforts to get to the bottom of things, and I'm doing exactly the same thing with these books showing the basis of what the diet is, and keep combining and just kind of trying to take things more factual. Like I've defined what fruit-based raw veganism is and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, I love it. Running Frugivore said the salt is the real culprit. I would say look at the one page on my book in the bundle about salt, and you'll hit most of the checkpoints there. I don't know if Chris, do you address salt at all in your
No, I don't. But I'm
on
assuming you're saying it's good as long as it's Himalayan or pink. Then just like do it as much as you can. Buy it from me.
totally good
I,
salt, good, bad salt, bad. But unfortunately, all
it's
salt
just
is bad.
yeah,
There is no
yeah.
good salt.
I'm looking for organic sodium in plant foods.
The page that I have on salt, it lists like I don't know, like a dozen different scathing reviews of what bad things that salt does, and then at the end it says all types of salt produce all of the above problems.
Is it
So
is that page salt stained
yeah,
while you're
absolutely,
sweating over it making it? No.
that's pretty funny. Um, Yeah, let's not talk about water fasting here. Yes, I've done water fast before, and if you want to send people want to send me a message, DM me about water fasting. I can give you my opinions and suggestions and who I don't recommend and who I perhaps do recommend.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say things like that publicly. Um, but definitely had a great experience when I fasted with Doug Graham back in 2008.
There is very briefly on a subject. The only fasting center I know that is in operation for sure right now is True North. I know Lawrence shut down in Costa Rica, so that's just a brief answer to his question about that.
Yep.
And I don't know if Doug is doing a water fasting retreat this winter or not. I know he didn't a couple years ago, but hopefully he will at some point again.
Yeah, and there are some other like alternatives, but it's not gonna be the same as what you get from someone like Doug that just has so much experience and so like it's just mind blowing. Like
Mhm.
you want you don't want to mess with your health and your life, especially if
Mhm.
you're considering doing a long water fast.
Yeah,
I'd
yeah.
like to. Oh, vegan pizza writer said he'd like to do a consultation with me.
There we go.
S A
There
L
we
S A
go.
L T. That's
Yeah,
funny.
some fancy word work
What
over
about a
there.
desaltation, desalination?
Yeah,
Um,
I think it's possible. I think that's just, kind of what we're doing and we're living, right? We're freeing those salts from our tissues by eating a balanced organic sodium-based diet from whole foods with lots of carbohydrates and water, and I think that helps free up the excess stored salts in our body from consuming it in excess in the past, perhaps,
is that what it means to be truly salt free? Is to have no mineral residue in your body?
Absolutely zero, to be completely clear of all salt of your body.
That sounds
Yeah.
very, very healthy, Chris. That sounds very, very healthy. And the goal is
Hugely.
to
Yeah.
disappear, right? Um,
Everything in balance.
let's hit another myth, Chris.
Yeah.
What's a fun one? What about the hybrid and seedless fruit myth? And like I've heard people, I've been to festivals in the US like over the years where people have said literally like experts, in their field, have said, all fruit is picked unripe and before the minerals are set in the fruit. So the fruit has no minerals in it. The like
Ugh.
they talk about everything being hybridized and like 50 times or 100 times or 1,000 times sweeter than it was 50 years ago or whatever your grandparents were eating. Um, and a banana
Oh,
like should have all seeds and no flesh and a little bit and just the skin and seeds and it should be unpleasant to eat and that's a real banana. So
yeah.
you shouldn't eat cabbage bananas or whatever else that's more delicious. What do you think about all these things?
Well, I I mean, if somebody wants to just forage 12 hours a day eating really fibrous plants that aren't even very tasty just to get enough, then maybe they want to live in that reality, but it's an inaccurate fallacy to say that, the foods are 100 times sweeter. There are certain varieties that have been around for thousands of years that are documented as very sweet. And, you could talk to fruit growers who are, multi-generational fruit growers and they'll talk about older fruits in some cases being sweeter than newer fruits, and there's the reality that every single thing on the planet, every single plant is a product of natural hybridization. It's just a mixing of two similar plants, like the cross pollination. And, the foods in the store, like sure, some of them are intelligently crossbred or intelligently hybridized, but this is a far cry from GMO where you're like manipulating on a genetic level. Um, I personally have zero fear around, hybrid fruits because again, even heirlooms are hybrids, It's like it's to me it's a giant misconception. If someone is concerned that they're, lower nutrient density, well, eat one more handful of greens, like and again, the reality like there's seedless grapes. I mean, hybrid and seedless, like, I'll stick with the hybrid. Um, you know, this again, to me, this is just a non sequitur that it just doesn't really make sense when you put it to scrutiny. You understand what hybridization means and the reality that everything is hybrid and that, the plants that we eat, some of them are developed for longer shelf life, some of them are developed for better flavor, some of them are developed for more disease resistance, some of them are just developed for fun, some of them, just to have a new different cultivar, but the fear mongering around them, making them bad or that they're less than is vastly overstated and inaccurate. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
seedless bananas, they've been documented for thousands of years as well, and the plant naturally found a new way to propagate through pups, and there are various ways that these things happen, and you can call them natural mutations, you can call them crossbreeding of two different similar plants, but that's how nature grows, that's how nature expands, and we have watched and observed that and learned how to intelligently cross certain plants so that you can have different varieties like pluots and all these different things. And like it again, it doesn't make it bad, it doesn't make it less than. And even in the case that you get a certain variety that is maybe a little bit lower in some nutrient than its older cousin, well, again, like does that have to be 100% of your diet? And is it still not adequate? Like you can still have a handful of green or mix up your other things. They're still incredibly nutritious, and yeah, it's one of those other kind of fear mongering things that can lead people to having less variety, making it less affordable and less tasty. Because again, like I think we um, glorify the past and the idea of like living in the jungle, and it's like do you really want to be foraging for 12 hours a day, eating underripe stuff and things that are like higher in fiber, and I mean there is the thought that the reason why human beings became human beings is because over time they learned how to really find the best fruit. Like they weren't just scavenging for 12 hours a day, eating whatever they could forage and like, pooping the most fibrous, horrible poops all day, because they started being able to mentally map like where the best fruit trees were at what seasons, and they go and they start to get way more calories from those abundant sources of more easily digestible, higher sugar fruits to get enough calories to bring upon brain expansion. And I mean, that resonates a lot to me. Whether it's 100% true, it's hard to say because that's, we're talking a long ass time ago, right? But
Yeah.
it's, you know, what do you think?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I think the fact that we're hybrids,
Mm. Yeah.
um, and we're not. I don't know. We're not turning into some degenerate like. Well, maybe we are, but most plant most plants are hybrids.
Oh, yeah.
So
Well, you could say every
naturally
plant is
hybrids.
really.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not sure actually. Like what. Like some fruit trees are true to seed and some are not. Like a durian growing from seed grows a new variety. It never
Mm,
grows the same variety. They only have the same varieties because we graft,
mm,
which is like manipulation
mm.
of the plants. But a lot of plants are
But
some plants are
even
true to seed,
those wouldn't,
like
even those though, they would have been the result of pollen from another tree interacting with the host tree, would it not?
yeah, there's still variation, and like every individual fruit is has uniqueness, and obviously the seed within that fruit has uniqueness.
Mm.
Um, and the soil changes and different plants in different environments. Things adapt. Like there's definitely adaptations. I don't think anyone's ever really nailed evolution. Like this is a fact, factual. No one's ever like observed. I
Something
think some scientists now
evolved.
claim that they have observed some evolutionary things happening, but I don't,
Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet.
Well, definitely adaptations, right? Which could be seen as evolution through observation of short lifespan microbes and insects and stuff like that.
Yeah. Um, I'm sorry. Just this strange question. Can you guys go over the cooked food scenario? I think that's supposed to say, because I'm reading Dr. Cross's books and his point of view is absolutely not. Uh, I'm not sure that that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I haven't read his books, but I could just say my basic kind of viewpoint on it is that a lot of people demonize cooked food as if every single way you could cook any type of food is automatically bad, poison, and detrimental to health. My point of view is that utilizing wet heat for green vegetables or leafy greens or even fruits like plantains, for example, doesn't create toxic residues that are harmful for health, but they don't necessarily have large advantages or advantages over ripe, fresh whole foods. So raw food. So again, it's like I think there's just an over demonization and black and white kind of view that is like lumps it all in bad when it's a little bit more gray to that. And for some people, for whether it's transition or whether someone just finds balance on a high raw food lifestyle, having that view can be detrimental because a steamed broccoli isn't going to kill you. It's like it's not going to vastly diminish your health. But I mean, we're coming from the same place that if you enjoy, you can employ and actually put it in a way that you can maintain a balanced raw food diet. There are advantages to that. But there are disadvantages to black and white demonizing all cooked food and lumping it in the same place from deep fried nuggets to steamed broccoli. And I think that hopefully that kind of simplifies it.
Absolutely, Chris. Love the way you said that. Certainly, like living in stress and eating healthy
Yeah,
food is not helpful. So
no,
living with fear and worries while doing something that's supposed to be healthy, it's not going to be healthy. And the same reason
no,
that you can't be healthy just by what you eat, but you also have to be fit to be healthy. You can't be
yeah,
healthy unless you're also fit. So it's a balance of all these things and certainly personal, how you feel inside, the inner peace, how calm you are, all, that's all super important. And you've got
absolutely.
to be doing things for the right reasons and you've got to find your own path through that. And things like the bundle help because you can relate to other people, learn from other people's experiences, cut through the education, cut through the myths and just get to the point and live a beautiful, happy, abundant life with compassion, peace and freedom. Peace, love and seasonal fruit, I think is the expression. Um,
All day, every day.
all day, every day. So it's 8 o'clock, Chris. So we've got to wind this up. Thank you
I
so
can't
much. You've
believe
been,
it.
yeah,
I can't believe how fast this has passed, brother.
it's 8 o'clock here in Thailand, I should say.
Yeah,
It's, what is it, like 6 a.m. in
it's three
PST?
here. When you guys come back to Sweden?
We're coming back to Sweden. Wow, that's a good question. We're not sure yet. It's not
No,
currently
we'll
on the agenda.
talk behind the scenes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, Chris, the Ultimate Raw Vegan Bundle, thank you so much for everything. I know you and Lisa put in so much work to make this happen every year. And it's such a wonderful platform for people like myself to get stuff out there, but also for everybody here to just grab that bundle and just run with it because it's $50,
Hmm.
$50 for like just ridiculous, insane amount of resources that
Hmm.
people put so much effort into creating, and you just pick it up for $50. It's just such a blessing the way it should be. So thank you so much, brother. Any closing words?
Well, I just appreciate you so dang much for being a part and for the community all coming together and everyone for for watching and enjoying with us. It's a team effort, it's a family effort, and yeah, I couldn't feel more blessed than to also have this opportunity to come together and spread this information out a lot wider.
Yeah, and thank you everyone for all your questions and comments. And
Absolutely.
we got to most things. Definitely there's modern farming practices are terrible in a lot of cases, but there's still also awesome farmers out there. Go to farmers markets, just go find the best sources of fruit, and you're getting awesome fruit. There's awesome fruit everywhere, still in every country, if you look
Yeah.
for it, if you know where to find it.
Yeah.
So thank you so
Pay attention
much.
attention to what you focus on, right? Pay attention to what you focus on. I'd always rather get enough of whatever fruit I can get than what's the second best option. It's just look to do your best possible, grow some of your own if you can, and let the seasons round it out because what you might be worrying about right now may not be there tomorrow
Yeah,
anyway.
and there's peace and freedom in knowing that you've done your best, whatever that
Yeah.
is. You do your best, even if it's not the optimal result. If you do your best, you can't have any regrets.
Yeah.
All you can do is
Yeah.
learn.
Oh, someone's asking.
Yeah. Say again.
Asking, will this be saved on your page to watch later? Yeah, it should be on both of our pages, right? You'll add me as a collaborator, please and thank you.
Of course I will.
Oh,
Yeah, actually, what do I need to do that? At this point, I need to.
when you're done, when we finish, it'll just ask you, to put a cover in there, to write something, and then it'll say like tag. And if you click tag, then you can also add as a collaborator. So hit the tag and
Okay.
then also hit add as collaborator and put at their advantage.
Awesome. Will do.
All
Thank you so
right.
much, Chris. Yeah, but
Much love to both you and
legend.
Amira. Have an amazing day and night.
Yeah, she's got that. She's on the computer over there.
Oh, perfect. Thanks for the fun questions.
Yeah, thank you, Chris, and thanks for writing an awesome book. Really appreciate you, and I'll see you on the next
too.
live because we're doing.
Sounds good. Yeah, see you very soon.
Awesome, beautiful.
All right.
Enjoy. Peace,
See
brother.
you guys. Peace. Much love.